Hi. So there's something really beneficial about looking for the spiritual lesson in everything that arises. When we start to orient ourselves in this way, we can start to see that things are happening. They don't necessarily feel good. This doesn't have to feel good. But also, it's not necessarily having the meaning that we're giving it. So when we seek spiritual guidance, when we seek for a form within the formless, that the formless give us something, what often is happening, a way of articulating that, because at the end of the day, our direct experience is really the teacher of this, right? So if my words are pointing in a direction of what that might look like, it might sound like these things are happening right now, and I can recognize that doesn't feel good. Well, if I'm looking for the spiritual lesson, I can ask the question, what about this am I supposed to learn, right? Now, the key here, there's a few. One is that there's an I here that's looking for my lesson, right? This lesson may be intertwined because I needed the other person present to awaken within me what was hidden to me until that situation arose. And now I have a choice to do something about that. What appears to me may be different than what the lesson is for the other person, right? And as I become more and more aware of what is the teaching me right now, what is for me, what is purifying my mind, my heart, my correcting my perceptions, they get more and more subtle. So something that may in a previous version have looked like anger may turn into be sadness, and then that sadness in a different time may turn into be longing, and that longing may turn into be in a different moment be in tune with an existential desire. So as we pay attention and we reconcile within us what is presenting itself now, looking for the highest possible outcome, this now moment then is transformed, and it opens an opportunity for the next version or the next thing to appear. We still need, interestingly, the outer as a frequency or energy, almost like a key in a door, to open and unlock that within us, right? Which goes to show the importance of life and the idea of other. And when we get how valuable another is in our life, especially when we're in partnership with somebody, because they have the capacity to really open places within us that are pre-verbal. Before we even had a language for this, we had sensations, almost instinctual reactions. And so when we have beloveds that can touch us in those places, they can feel overwhelming. And we certainly need tools in which to work with those sensations to be able to help us stay present to what's arising in our own universe without projecting it and making the person who's, I'm going to say, innocently living their own experience. And that isn't to say that they don't have their own things to look at, but that's the distinction, is when we get that the other person is doing their thing. They are learning their lessons like we are, and we stop trespassing and putting our attention on what they should be learning so that they don't hurt us. And we disguise all of our own self-care, that others should be protecting us, which in that way we continually become victims, because there's a powerlessness to protect ourselves, which we're the protector also. So when we stop feeding into the idea that there's an outside that isn't for our highest good, and that the outside may feel very challenging, but there's a gift in that. And the gift is transformation and freedom. And some of these gifts can take a process. They can take time and increments to get to the root or the core cause of what is trapping our awareness in place, so that we stop self-sabotaging. So we stop creating in the outer world opportunities to keep learning these lessons more and more subtly, and we free our consciousness from our beliefs in the meaning that we've given what's arising. So how this is helpful is allowing a deeper sense of freedom, and also byproduct is inner stability. When you get for yourself that you have the power to go inside and really look with clarity and hold yourself in self-responsibility, this is mine, desire to see something different than what it was that was previously hurting you, and then allow something greater. So surrender, so allow and surrender to something greater. It's shown, it's like knocking and the door's open. That process, inner process of allowing surrender, and then believing, and then acting upon. And the belief in acting upon, why that's important is, I find in a world and a field full of information, if we haven't embodied enough of our self, of our essence, to know who we are in truth, not who we are in idea, not who we are in thought, not even who we are in belief, because all of those can change. They're malleable, right? How I feel right now and how I feel later is something that changes. But who I am in truth is something that it's grounded in something that's not changeable. It's in a formless state. When we become more and more clear about the truth of who we are, asking the question and unraveling ourselves from others, what's going on with them, we might call some of that drama, we stop having inner drama. We stop having inner drama, and we stop avoiding the conflicts that are happening on our inner landscape. And we stop looking outside then and calling it what we're feeling inside. We just start attending to it. We start actually caring for our inner experience in a way that's fully attentive. And it's also letting the other person off the hook, because spirit in them has also got a plan for them. This calls a lot of times for very radical understanding, very radical choices that seem radical from one perspective. From another perspective, it's just following almost breadcrumbs to yourself. And when we look for the spiritual lessons in our experiences, we enrich ourselves. It stops being about another, and it starts being about what we're adding to the quality of beingness that can never be taken away. Because once you know, because we've done the work, and maybe the work really is as simple as allowing and surrendering, or maybe it is an actual process in time where there's lots of groupings of this in like a microcosm of processes of allowing and surrendering, certain things, whether we want to call them vices or, withholdings of the truth of ourselves from ourselves, self-sabotage, all of these ideas and concepts that at the end of the day, allowing us to ask, what is here for me? Is returning power back to the source to give us the answers that we are seeking to empower us in truth to the next version of ourselves. Or maybe we don't call it the next version, maybe we call it an expanded state of consciousness, one that's no longer trapped in this moment by its previous state of ignorance. And either way that you call, whatever you're wanting to call this expansion that happens in self, as self, and then our relationship and our quality to ourself on the inner changes, because now we have an embodied experience. What is for me here? And then next time that comes up, we'll actually have then a working knowledge, a somatic resonance, an embodied way of potentially relating to that honors us, and honoring us is honoring the other person, right? And on that level, they're not separate, right? Honoring another person is honoring ourselves too. So there's a place where self and other, this middle ground here, that honoring happens mutually. And it doesn't matter at this point, me looking outside to the other, what they do. Because if I'm grounded in spiritual truth, I'm going to choose what's aligned with my spirit, what's aligned with my soul, what's aligned with my evolution. And I'm going to let the greater authority of this person figure out what that is for them. And I'm just going to self-own what is here for me. This kind of freedom from self and other is one of the most loving things that we can do. It also, from a psychological standpoint, can feel really challenging for those who want to involve us in their process because they don't know how to reach for source within themselves, or they don't have the tools to ask for that help, which is why I express the importance of having these tools. So one, we're not getting caught in, or we're not trespassing in what is another person's journey to self-awareness. And we're also staying free within ourselves to really get the simplicity and simultaneously the complexity of where we are in our own spiritual journey. What tests, so to speak, are arising for us to love wholly and to be with. And then at the end of the day, the question is, can we be the most amazing lovers of this world possible? What would that look like in each and every moment? What would love do in each and every moment, regardless of how the other's showing up, independent of? And when we're independent again, sovereignly acting from spiritual values that we choose to embody here on earth, we bring heaven more closely. And the frequency of our being, i.e. the fruits of spirit, are gifted to all those around us, regardless if they're aware of what they're being gifted or not. And then at the end of the day, they're freely given, so it doesn't really matter. What matters is our loyalty to ourselves in spirit, right? The love that we have for ourselves in spirit, as soul. And it's the same soul as we purify and purify enough that we start to recognize more and more and more is what is outside of us. And then we understand more and more and more, it is us. We are that. So loving everything, seeing what is our almost spiritual duty to love into wholeness, anything that arises within us that creates a sense of separation. Separation meaning subject-object, separation meaning self and other. This, not me, present. We are loving ourselves whole. Thanks for being with me.